welcome to the CraveCast. Are we live? I think we must be live.
We are live.
All right, this is the CraveCast. I am Eric Mack, and joining me from the CNET studios in San Francisco today, we've got Kelsey Adams, Bonnie Burke, Jeff Sparkman, and behind the controls, Stephen Beecham. And
Howdy.
Today, we've really got one topic to discuss. That's because today is either going to go down in history as a day that is just that, historic, or a day that will be forgotten, and a day that had a ridiculous presentation. I'm talking, of course, about Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX, who today in Guadalajara, Mexico, at the International Astronautics Conference, laid out over the course of an hour his entire vision for not just sending a mission to Mars, not sending a rover to Mars, just a mission to Mars, but he laid out an entire vision for building a city of 1 million people on Mars and doing it like within about 100 years.
Yes.
We covered it in a live blog here on CNET that you can check out. The whole thing is just insanely audacious.
You think?
Yeah, but he came out. The very first thing that he said was, today I hope to show that not only that we can get to Mars, but that maybe you can go to Mars, like as in you, as in anybody. And the whole thing is just kind of a little off the wall. And I've been spending the last couple hours trying to decide whether or not he's delusional or a visionary, and I don't really know.
I feel like if you're going to say this can happen in 100 years, then I can say that because I'm not going to be accountable because I'm not going to be here in 100 years. So I think we should have unicorn farms in 100 years.
Well, I was wondering, he brought up the Hyperloop. We don't have the Hyperloop. What is he saying now to make
We
us
have the
believe?
Hyperloop.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. We have. There's working prototypes.
I
of it,
haven't been on the Hyperloop.
but,
So we
like
don't.
a-
not a
So
running one.
we don't have the Hyperloop.
I think there's like a half-mile test track of a Hyperloop is what we've got going on so far.
I don't think that's the same as having
Yeah,
it.
I feel like this is the Simpsons monorail episode all over again.
That's kind of my impression too. Before I was writing about science and technology, I spent the first half of my career covering a lot of politics and covering a lot of environmental issues. So that's kind of a field of journalism that tends to breed a lot more cynicism than optimism. So there's part of me that gets really excited about the idea of this guy is actually talking about starting to send people to Mars like within about a decade, and then 1 million there, within 100 years, and laying out concrete steps for how to do that. But then there's the other political reporter side of me that's like, as a species, we have a really hard time pulling off the Olympics every 2 years. I don't know. It's just so audacious. But he's talking about like getting going over the course of the next decade, starting to actually send spaceships to Mars within about 5 years, and then maybe by 10 years we start to send people. And I do have to give him credit. He did say that the first trips to Mars are going to be really dangerous, and there's a pretty good chance people will die. So there is some realism about.
Sign me up.
Right.
The only thing I kept thinking was bring potato plants, bring potato plants, bring potato plants, save the feces. Yeah, I don't know. I want to be positive about all this because I think space travel is important to us as a race. Like just as human beings, we should be thinking outside of our normal goals as a culture and through technology and everything. And it's great to see his optimism. I just think promising something like this with a time frame of 100 years is kind of silly because none of us are going to be around in 100 years go, hey, wait a minute. Remember when that guy said 100 years ago that we'd be on Mars and we're still trying to figure out how to rebuild New Orleans?
Right. And by the way, that's like the long range. The actual time frame he gave was 1 million people in a self-sustaining city on Mars between about 40 and 100 years. So in his mind, this is possible by like the 2050s,
And is he,
which just is like even more insane to me. I mean, we've sent what, like maybe a dozen people to the moon, and that's as far as we've gone, and we haven't gone back in 40, 50 years.
and is he planning that self-sustaining city as well, or is he just focusing on the transportation?
I think he's focusing on getting. There was definitely no urban planning in his 1 hour. I think he envisions getting it going. That SpaceX is going to provide the transportation infrastructure to get there, and that investors are going to take over and start to build the propellant plants on Mars and start to build the infrastructure, and that capitalism will basically take over at some point. That's the impression you get.
Yeah, so the propellant station is going to be, that's like the biggest thing I felt. Like they have to make their own propellant on Mars, and also refueling in space as opposed to just launching a giant ship that's going to fly straight to Mars. Like I felt like that was like one of the biggest, most important parts of it. Did you feel that same way too, Eric?
Yeah, and that's kind of their specialty, right? Is kind of the logistics. That's what SpaceX has been doing, is trying to make space travel and space exploration more efficient. That's why it's been a big deal that they've been doing the reusable rockets, the Falcon 9s that go up and send something deliver something to the space station, and then they come and land back down so they can be reconditioned and refueled. So they showed that animation today of how it would work, which is basically that you've got, these ships that are going back and forth, they get launched from Earth once, and then they kind of seem to travel back and forth from orbit to orbit. So you basically have these refueling stops that'll happen in orbit. So you got the spaceship with people on it. And that's another crazy thing. The spaceship would carry up to 100 people.
It's huge.
So it's a plane. It's huge.
Yeah.
And they had photos of like the huge carbon fiber capsules, and they're just they're small buildings that'll carry 100 people, and then he said eventually 200 people. But yeah, so you have these spaceships that get refueled in orbit, and then you have rockets that are basically carrying the fuel back and forth from the surface of the Earth to orbit, or from the surface of Mars to orbit, and then you're just kind of taxiing back and forth through space in these ships. Like that's kind of the plan. And then, as if that weren't enough, at the very end, he's like, and I think we could probably set up gas stations, filling stations, maybe on Europa or on Pluto, and we could go all over the solar station, as if going to Mars with 1 million people wasn't enough. I mean, it's just kind of bonkers. But then there's just that part that it seems easy to dismiss. But this is a guy that has achieved pretty insane things already. He's not a person easily to be dismissed. And obviously the Wright brothers were dismissed at first, as well as were any other number of visionaries. So it's like, I don't know if I'm betting on him, but if I would bet on anyone to do it, it might be him.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think is driving him to bring it up right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what does he know that we don't know? That's I feel like, is there a giant asteroid coming towards us and he's the only one that knows it? Like, I don't know. I love visionaries, but sometimes I have to agree with Kelsey. Like, what drives him at this certain point in time to make all this happen?
I mean, he's always been like a Silicon Valley, green technologist, right? I mean, he's always been animated by clean energy, and he's obviously concerned about climate change and about sustainability. I mean, his 3 companies right now are Solar City, solar power company, Tesla, which is electric cars, and SpaceX, which is kind of the furthest flung of his ideas, which is, we're probably not going to be able to create a fully sustainable Earth, so eventually we're going to have to move off of it. So, I mean, I think this is what he's actually been working towards for 15 years now, and this is just the next step in the process.
Yeah, during the keynote, he also mentioned like he was concerned about his replacement if he was to die, and that he'd want someone who was he'd want someone who wasn't so hungry for profits and stuff, but more like changing the world and making more energy efficient travel and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, that's very interesting that he would say something like that,
Yeah, I mean, I think the guy is totally sincere. If he was only about, turning his billions into more billions, and basically almost lost everything a couple of times in the process of getting to this point.
Here's one of his rockets landing recently.
I don't know. I feel like he should just pull a Blade Runner and make a replicant of himself, and then he wouldn't have to worry. So when he dies, he can still be there.
I think we should all do that.
Sorry, I guess that was a Blade Runner spoiler for someone, but I don't know. I love visionaries that want to get us to space. I just wish we had more visionaries to fix us down here. Because we have a lot of problems that need fixing on Earth, and it would be nice if we just didn't give up on Earth and go to another planet and screw that planet up. It would be kind of awesome if we had more visionaries down here that were like, well, here's how we save the oceans. Here's how we stop climate change. Here's how we keep each other from killing each other. I don't know. There's just so many problems down here I wish we could fix before we just go, well, Earth's a crap zone. Let's just go to Mars.
But I mean, Elon Musk in particular is the one guy you have to give credit for trying to do both. He's a solar power guy. He's got a solar power company. So he is kind of trying to work it from both ends. I just think he's probably a little bit over optimistic. And there's other problems, because the first thing, there's a couple of things. Stephen, I sent you a link to a post that I ran actually last year when we were talking about Mars One, which is another less likely effort to get to Mars. So we put up a post back in February about all the ways that you could die on Mars. And it's really disturbing. It's not easy to survive on Mars, and there wasn't a lot of dealing with those problems.
Yeah. By the way, I want someone to make a short film out of all those ways to die. I think that would be great if someone made a film. So anybody who's listening that's a filmmaker, if you could make a short film out of Eric's article, out of all the different ways to die on Mars, I would back that Kickstarter.
I'm going to try to tackle that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun for
I think that would be hilarious.
I mean, the radiation alone, I was at a space conference. And it was basically a conference of all the companies that are interested in doing business in space, except SpaceX. They're the only one that wasn't there. And it was kind of a more realistic view. And there was a guy who literally spent decades as one of NASA's chief doctors. And he's like, the amount of radiation on Mars, you can't be walking around even in a spacesuit. That's not going to protect you. I mean, you basically would have to be in a bunker under about 6 feet of soil to protect you from the radiation. You're not going to be able to do a lot of work. So there's entirely new, technologies to have efficient radiation shielding. And it's it's funny that the idea is to become a multiplanetary species because, I don't know, the Earth, there might be an apocalypse, the Earth might not be around forever, climate change, whatever you're concerned about, because it's okay, but Mars wants to kill you. See, the thing.
So does Earth. You can argue the same thing about Earth.
Well, that's the thing, though. Earth is I don't think Earth wants to kill us.
Earth is just Australia alone.
Earth's if you don't leave me alone, I might have to kill you. It's kind of like a hesitant mobster.
It's almost like your house is on fire. So do you stay in the house that's on fire, or do you run next door where a serial killer lives?
You run next door, yeah, exactly, or to the melting down nuclear plant.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Earth doesn't want to kill us, but it might have to. Mars really wants to kill us. And there's other problems too when you get into it. In advance of this press conference, I started reaching out to some people who know a lot more than we do about this. In fact, I talked to Professor Joanne, and I'm going to mess this up, Gabernowitz, I think. And she is the editor-in-chief emerita of the Journal of Space Law. Get ready. This is going to be exciting. So there's this concept of planetary protection, which is kind of like the environmental version of the Prime Directive, okay? The Prime Directive is don't harm, civilizations, or don't... I'm talking about Star Trek. Sorry if you're not nerdy enough to get that. But in Star Trek, you're basically not supposed to interfere in civilizations that are less developed. And so there's an idea called planetary protection that is kind of the same idea. If we're going to go to Mars, we have to do it in a responsible way where we won't disturb what might already be there. Like we're not even supposed to really mess with any microbes that are there. That's why when they sent the rover to Mars, it had to be totally sanitary, and it was like a big deal that the rover might have been contaminated with molecules of methane.
Now, Elon Musk's terraforming plan, or am I getting ahead of what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's where I'm going. So like Musk has talked about doing things like nuking Mars to get
to heat it up,
an atmosphere going. So we have what Professor Gabernowitz told me was she referenced the Outer Space Treaty that basically states the parties must avoid harmful contamination and also adverse changes in the environment resulting from the introduction of extraterrestrial matter on Earth. And that would also apply to other planets, is the way I understand it.
I love how precious we are about that stuff, because it's like, we're just humans and we only have one planet, and we're putting all this rules on other planets. We don't own those planets. They're just planets, and we have enough space junk in space that if we really cared about these things, we wouldn't just dump everything into space like we have been for how many decades now. So the fact that we have some sort of it's kind of like Miss Universe. Like, it's not really Miss Universe. It's just this planet. So why are we acting like we own the solar system? Like, we don't have any other species to be accountable for yet. There's no other.
Quit jinxing it, man.
There's no aliens out there going, oh, those humans are at it again. Not as far as we know.
Could be, yeah.
As far as we know, like, we could do whatever we want at this point until someone, brings down the hammer.
All right, we're dead.
Kelsey thinks I'm jinxing it and that the aliens are going to uprise. I'm sure all of them are watching this right now. And yeah. But anyway, I am curious about the terraforming. I don't know, Kelsey. You look like you wanted to say something about terraforming, so.
No,
they had a video. The video they showed at the presentation today. It ends with they zoom out and you see Mars, and Mars spins around and it morphs from being kind of dead red Mars that we know to like a Mars with an atmosphere and an ocean, and it's green and blue and red. And it's like, okay, so does that mean he's serious about the terraforming stuff?
Because he basically wants to turn Mars into Miami.
Well, during the keynote, he said this is possible to do, that we can warm up Mars. He said there's plenty of water there. He made it sound like it's a no-brainer, like we can do this. No, don't worry about it. So, I mean, that's what scientists have been talking about for a long time, is heating up and getting the, melting all the ice under the ground and creating a new atmosphere on Mars. So plenty of people think that's possible. So
yeah, I mean, I've watched enough of the alien films to know how well that turned out when someone goes, yeah, don't worry about it. No problem. We could do that.
We just need to find the little alien hand thingy in Total Recall.
Oh, yeah.
Put a hand on that. Boom.
I think sci-fi has warped us to the point now that we expect all these things. So when Elon Musk say that, I'm like, I kept thinking of every sci-fi movie that's done this already.
Even just watching the video, it reminded me of like in Star Trek 2 where they're showing the proposal video for the Genesis torpedo. And
I know, we're so warped.
The thing that I want to know about the whole, getting to Mars thing and having people colonize it, what the hell are people going to do on the 2-year ride to Mars? I mean,
oh yeah, well,
that's like a lot of Netflix.
That's another thing he talked about, was it has to be fun. We have to have a restaurant.
Like, it's going to be Love Boat in space, basically.
Yeah, totally. But yeah,
I'm only going if Charo's going, then I'll go.
It's going to be like a cruise ship. They're going to be partying. There's going to be shuffleboard, all kinds of fun stuff.
Just for luck, why don't they just name it the Titanic?
Titanic 2.
That might jinx it.
So it sounds like you guys wouldn't want to go then, huh?
No.
Oh, I would totally go.
No, I'm not going on the first crew. Are you kidding?
I don't know. I would almost kind of want to rather go on the first one than the second one, because you figure the first one, they'll be like super cautious. After they get it right the first time, they're like, oh, screw it. We know how to do this. And then, people start getting
I don't know. I feel
lazy.
like they're going to treat it like a prison colony first. So they're going to send out expendables first.
That could be.
So like the movie Expendables, they should just send everyone that was in Expendables
awesome.
3.
Put
oh my
Dolph
God,
Lundgren on there.
what a great movie would that be? So it'd be Expendables
in
4.
space.
So it's all the actors from Expendables who are clearly expendable, and throw in the Suicide Squad just for good measure.
Yeah.
Because I would want to spend up on 2 years with Jared Leto in space.
So I hesitate to repeat this because it's so mean-spirited, but during the Q&A session today,
Oh my
somebody
God.
got a hold of a mic from Funny or Die and
Yeah.
and said, we've actually calculated who the most expendable person on Earth is, and it's Michael Cera.
Oh.
Which is, like I said, mean-spirited, but Elon was not amused.
Oh, Michael.
That's
Well,
terrible.
he is kind of. Well, no.
Jeff, weren't you saying that there was a lot about those questions?
Oh my
It seemed
God!
a little
Like next time they do this, they really need to
They have
like
to vet
vet the
people.
questions because some of that was, I mean, I am like no paragon of being smooth or anything, but like I was cringing.
Was it
with
like
some of those
Comic-Con?
questions.
Was it like Comic-Con
Well,
Q&A?
Somebody asked if she could come up and give him
Get a hug?
kiss.
Did someone want a hug?
Yeah. No, she wanted a kiss.
Oh, gosh.
There was a lot of four-letter words being dropped and questions about Martian toilets. It was like,
I mean, that was a good question. I just don't think, it was presented as, scientifically as it could have been. Though
there
it
was, like,
did
some
paint an
references to
evocative
El
picture.
Chapo. It was really bizarre. I agree with what you said, Bonnie, about that. I think sci-fi has kind of warped us, I guess, to the point where we have billionaires that are like really pursuing this with their fortune. But I mean, I feel like, talking to scientists who work in planetary science, I have to assume that I talked to some before the speech, but not after. I have to assume that some of them are freaking out right now because, most of them are concerned about even like sending, like astronauts, like half a dozen astronauts in spacesuits, that could, contaminate this place that they still want to explore for science. I've got a quote here. This is from Peter Doran, who is a professor at Louisiana State University. And he says, the big issue with all missions to Mars is we don't want to create a situation where we are impacting future life detection science. We don't want to discover Earth life that was transported there on a spacecraft. This is pretty straightforward with robots, but with humans, it's a huge challenge. Picture humans like the Pigpen character in the Peanuts cartoons, walking around shedding microbes everywhere we go. Spacesuits as we know them do not take care of this problem. So, you got a scientist here who's worried about the spacesuits we have going, and we're talking about nuking the place and building a city of 1 million people.
Well, that's why you have a difference between NASA, who are scientists, versus SpaceX, which has scientists, but also has more of that human businessman entertainment value, right? So NASA would never make those kinds of promises, but then SpaceX wants to make those kinds of promises because they want to get people excited. They need the funding, blah, blah, blah. My problem was we're so warped as a species when it comes to space because of sci-fi. We have these really incredible expectations. We have the same kind of expectations with robotics. Yes. We have the same kind of expectations with just regular travel. It's hard. It's kind of like Law and Order and The Good Wife has ruined jury duty for me. Because I expect when I go to jury duty,
already, huh?
I mean, it was pretty boring to begin with, but if you binge watch Law and Order and then go to jury duty, I guarantee you're going to be like, why aren't they saying something quippy? Like, where are the bon mots? Where's the
where's the dun dun? Yeah.
Where's the speeches? Even if you watch To Kill a Mockingbird, that's better than jury duty. So when you go to jury duty, it's boring. A lot of the lawyers aren't very articulate. None of them look like actors. Half the jury is on their phone secretly. Like, it's not the same thing. So in space, I feel like we have these Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Red Dwarf, take your pick of whatever your idea of what space should be. And we're not there yet. And we're taking too long and it costs too much. And we're taking too many, like, almost, I would feel like as scientists, we're being too careful. And I feel like SpaceX is kind of like let's just nuke it and terraform it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not careful planning to me. That doesn't feel like it's very systematic or scientific. It's kind of like, well, 100 years, we're going to do all this great stuff and we're going to be on this other planet. And I love his sense of adventure and excitement, but the skeptic in me is just wondering if any of this is really plausible because, again, we have all these stipulations of we don't want to screw up the planet by doing all these things, thinking that it's going to help us get there faster, but it may mess up future endeavors. So I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see what happened if we did infect Mars with Earth life. I mean, what would you get?
Yeah.
I almost think it's like something you can't stop. It's just nature. Like,
yeah,
comets fly over and they drop DNA or whatever on this planet and all kinds, moon rocks, whatever. It's just something we can't avoid. So why worry about it so
like,
much?
would we end up getting a lot of really tall people after? Well, no, because there's less, less gravity on Mars. So eventually, unless they have a way to counter that,
So I can actually answer that question.
Oh, good.
This is from the same conference I went to last year. This is from a guy named Al Globus.
That's a great name.
A NASA guy forever, and now he's big into space settlement. He's a guy who's like thinks we should have orbiting like cities like the Taurus, like that's his thing. He's not too big on Mars. So he pointed out that this is a quote from him: "We know absolutely for sure that kids would grow up weak on Mars, and they would probably never be able to visit Earth. So if you actually raised a family on Mars, you're stuck there because of the difference in gravity. If you took your Martian raised human back to Earth, the gravity would probably like break their spine."
Oh my God, I'm just thinking of the best spec script I'm going to write for CW now.
I was just thinking Elton John was right. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise a kid.
Is that really what he said?
Yeah.
He's our visionary.
Rocket Man, that's I mean, I can't look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
I just like how we're already thinking about bullying possibilities of these poor kids from Mars, about how they're never going to make the football team because they're too fragile.
Well, Elon, if you're on Mars though, Elon was talking about this, like it'd be fun. You can like lift heavy cars and like other things, jump really high in the air. So he said it'd be kind of fun. So maybe sports on Mars would be awesome.
I like how he's selling it with like Superman abilities.
I know. Because there's only 38% gravity compared to Earth. Something like that. So
right.
we would weigh like 38 pounds. If you're 100 pounds on Earth, you weigh 38 pounds there.
I just wonder if it would end up kind of like Blade Runner in the sense that Earth would be where all the poor people end up because they can't afford the off-world colonies. And so it's going to be all replicants and really good Chinese food because that's what was in Blade Runner, and really awesome bars and synthetic snakes and strippers and us and Neon and Harrison Ford. And then everybody else gets to be in the off-world colonies. It's going to be interesting because if this does happen, just the possibilities of what that means for culture, for society, for the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and who gets stuck here and who gets to go to Mars. So, I mean, obviously that's not going to happen in the next 100 years. That's probably 500-year situation. Unless we just get blown up for like some sort of intergalactic highway. Ooh. I still think I'm a big proponent of all the sci-fi out there. I do think Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is the closest to what's going to happen. Is we're going to be in the way of some sort of construction project of some other aliens, and they're going to be like, just blow up Earth. It's in the way. Yeah, and that's the end. So Elon better hurry up.
What is this
so
next?
I had an insight today watching the presentation on kind of why Elon's style is what it is. Like why he's like the only guy doing this space stuff, but doing it with like the pizzazz and like, promoting every landing, even when like they don't work and then things crash and blow up. Like, it's like all completely transparent, and he's all about marketing and exposure and attention when nobody else in the space community, even NASA's not as good as he is at that. And they're pretty good. And it's because like, if this is his vision and this is something he actually thinks is going to happen in his lifetime, he's going to have to build enough support around it and enough enthusiasm around it to, number one, have the amount of investment he's going to need to change laws to make this possible, to probably change treaties to make this possible. So there like has to be like a groundswell of public support for this idea, like you had with the space race, maybe. So, based on what we've seen of SpaceX and kind of the enthusiasm over the last 5 years since Curiosity landed, I mean, do you think that's possible? Is there enough public support to, let's pretend that he's right and this is possible. Do you think people would get behind it?
Crickets.
I mean, sure, that happened with Mars before.
Yeah, I think people get behind it. But again, I'm wondering if people get behind it because we're so warped and we want the sci-fi to become real, sci-real instead of sci-fi, that we would do this. Or I don't know, like, I mean, it's hard to get this country, let alone the world, to agree on one thing. So like you said, treaties would have to be figured out. I mean, I don't know. The International Space Station has it figured out. It's not too political, I would assume. So maybe there is a way to do this.
And there's ongoing interest in all of this. What's his first milestone that he has in mind? Like, what's the next step here?
So if I recall, Stephen, he was talking about starting to launch some the Dragon landers, which are the landers that SpaceX has that could land apparently on any surface that's water or solid in the solar system. So first sending a couple of those unmanned to Mars over the next 5 years, and then sending people, and then starting to build the infrastructure.
Yeah,
supposedly, and that all starts, like according to him, within about 10 years.
Yeah, he also talked a lot about mass producing rocket boosters, so now they're able to make 300, I think it was 300 rocket boosters in 1 year, which is pretty phenomenal, so that's almost one a day. That's pretty incredible. So he's talking about mass producing these, getting the cost down of all this, and making a very efficient spacecraft. When I was watching this whole thing, I kept coming back to Interstellar, and I learned everything. I learned everything he was saying from watching what's his name? What's the actor's name in that movie?
Martin Short.
No, Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I'm thinking Inner Space. I'm thinking Inner Space.
Oh yeah, that movie's great too.
That's even better to think about.
I just kept going to Interstellar, and I kept going to the Martian, and I'm like, okay, yeah, efficiency, that makes sense, blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, they're building these rocket boosters. They're going to be building these ships. He said the models that we saw in all these videos that they've been showing were actual CAD models of these ships. So, I mean, they're well on their way towards making this a reality. And then, this whole event was it was like a pitch. It was like a giant pitch, for funding, basically.
Yeah.
And he talked also about even if you guys don't give me some money, I'm going to be putting my own money into this. I'm amassing a large amount of money to make this happen. So I'm going to do it with or without you. So I thought that was very interesting and very ballsy.
All he needs is maybe a handful or 100 other really eccentric billionaires to help him, create some sort of Justice League of rich billionaires into space, and we could probably get there.
Totally.
Well, I mean, once the system was set up to get people back and forth to the point where you could actually survive there, he was talking about it would cost about $200,000 in today's dollars for somebody to move to Mars.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
If you get to that scale where that's possible, there is probably 1 million people in the developed world that would move to Mars for $200,000.
I mean, that's still cheaper than San Francisco.
Right.
Oh, big time.
If you got a house once you got there, it'd be a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, those numbers, where are those numbers coming from? You could just be pulling that out of thin air.
I think that's his projection of what he's hoping it. That's kind of the number he hopes it to be in the future.
Right.
Using solar power and the farming of
potatoes.
Yeah. The fuel farming, whatever they're going to do, electrolysis on Mars to separate water from, separate the chemicals in the water to build fuel. So it's so weird. I would throw down though.
It is kind of like a why, the only, I mean, it's just I guess climbing Mount Everest, there's no reason to do it except to do it. Why would anyone actually do this except to do it? There's no, I mean, yeah, rising sea levels, maybe don't live on South Beach in Miami, but everywhere else is still okay.
No, it's not. It's totally not. I just wrote an article for CNET on Bill Nye's prediction of climate change and what's going to happen in the next 70 to 100 years. And we could look at all of our coastal towns being underwater in that timeline. So if climate change is happening the way it's happening, whether or not you believe we did it or it's Mother Nature doing it, it's happening. So the earth is changing, and there's a lot of cities that are going to be underwater, and there's a lot of land that's going to be underwater, and there's a lot of countries that are going to be underwater. So this is something that people are definitely looking at and worried about. And instead of putting a stop to it, if we can even we may not be able to stop climate change anyway. If that's the case, that's why these types of people like Elon Musk saying, well, if the earth is going to implode on itself, or if we're going to destroy Earth, here's another option. And I think people are actually starting to look at this seriously. And I know I was kind of naysaying it in a sci-fi fan kind of way, but I want him to succeed. I don't not want this guy to succeed. I don't feel he's insane enough that it might actually work and it might actually happen. I doubt I'm going to be around to see it, but I hope it happens, because we need to have some sort of plan, because Earth isn't going to be the way we have it now forever. And so we either need to figure out, okay, how are we going to survive on this planet? once Mother Nature takes over and decides to get rid of us, or where can we go? And I like the idea of space cities, like not necessarily being on a planet, but kind of like, I guess if we're going to use the sci-fi analogy, like Cloud City on Star Wars, just don't have Lando in charge of it. But I mean,
or like on the
They'll sell you
Jetsons,
out.
really.
yeah, or the Jets or something where I thought that's where we were going with international space stations was, okay, is it possible to live for many years on a space station, and how big can we build these space stations, and can we do like growing crops and all that stuff and have a city within a space station? So to me, that's where I thought we were going, not necessarily planet colonization, but I could be wrong.
There's a guy, an astronomer. His name is John S. Lewis. I want to say he was at like Arizona or Arizona State. But if you Google him, he's had a pretty amazing career. And I saw him give a talk once where, his whole thing was we should be spreading throughout the solar system as far as we can just because like we're just like this infant civilization. We're just like these people on this one rock. Like, imagine, we're capable of amazing things right now in terms of things that we've created and things that we've built and systems that we've built and the internet and Snapchat and there's spectacles now and all that stuff. And so his whole thing was like, imagine like what a quadrillion people spread out through the asteroid belt. I mean, it's just like the ultimate manifest destiny vision. And you have to imagine that maybe Elon Musk has a little bit of that attitude as well.
Yeah, he never.
But it's an interesting point.
He never really talked about like we have to get off this planet because because it's getting warm and our atmosphere is disappearing. He was talking about it like we need to be a multi-planetary species. That was kind of his main pitch. So I thought that was.
That was probably the best way to go. Once you start doing fear mongering, then it goes down the drain.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's doing a Willy Wonka
and then
approach,
he's talking about going to Mars and then heating up that atmosphere is what we're already pros at
We're
doing
really
that
good
here.
at it, yeah.
Yeah, we know how to do.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're gonna go
Right.
there and we're gonna do climate change there, and it's
do
gonna
what
be
you
all
do
great.
best. Yeah, if you're good at ruining planets, put it in our own favor. Maybe we could
was really
ruin
funny.
it to the benefit of all mankind.
The way he mentioned it was actually really funny. He did mention, like, at the very beginning, he's like, there could be an apocalypse. I don't know what it'll be, but, we should probably worry about that. And then you talk about Mars, and he's like, yeah, Mars is a little cold, but we could warm it up a little.
Yeah, it was so
And that's
casual.
exactly how he said it. I mean,
Totally.
he's talking about nuking the place.
all I'm imagining is him being an old man like the grandpa that created Jurassic Park. And that's all I'm thinking now is just the billionaire who's like, well, we could do this. What? Because, making dinosaurs out of amber, well, that was just for fun. That wasn't anything other than. But no, I hope that this happens. I really do. I just don't know how it's going to happen. And I am interested to see all the things that go wrong before we get it right.
Right.
And hopefully that won't set us back. Because as we know with NASA, once there's a major catastrophe, everything stops for a long time until they can start it up again. So hopefully that won't happen here.
Which is a point he made, is that you can't really rely. He says you can't really rely on agencies like NASA because they're politically motivated. I mean, when they were motivated by the space race and fear of the Soviet Union to get to Mars, and then the challenge, the shuttle mission ended, the shuttle program ended, and then we're just on this trajectory of like, maybe we'll go to Mars in the 2030s. But maybe that's a way we can wrap up the show is looking into our crystal balls. What do you think is realistic in terms of when we get? I saw that, Sparkman.
I said nothing. I was thinking about something else that
Look
happened
at
to be
your
really
crystal
funny.
balls.
Realistically, when do you think we have a colony on Mars? Is it going to be with Elon Musk in 100 years, 500 years, never?
I'm thinking it's gonna be sooner. I think it's gonna be like in the next 20 years. I think
What? Of how many people?
a small crew, like Matt
Okay.
Damon and his crew. Like I think it
Sliced
could be a
alone.
small group. How long does it take to get to Mars? It takes like 2 years or something. He was saying.
You could get there in 9 months.
9 months. Yeah. So I think it's totally possible that this will happen in
This
the next
is your pitch
20
Gilligan's
years.
Planet, isn't it?
Yes.
You got a script waiting.
Yeah. 20 years. I'm
A
saying.
movie star. A professor and Marion. Yeah, I think it's possible, but not with humans. I think they should have robots.
Well, we already have robots there.
No, I mean real robots, not robots like Curiosity.
Mars rover is a real robot.
No, I know, but I mean humanoid robots, like robots that are slight human, slight robots, so you could test the living capabilities, like
or robots that are like mobile VR.
Like,
so we can still enjoy it, but we don't actually have to go.
I know. Maybe I'm being an idiot, but I kind of feel like you should have humanoid robots to test everything before the humans get there, not actual robots that look like tanker trucks, but human-esque robots to see what all the human problems will be before we
Haley
get there.
Joe Osment style?
Yeah. Like Jude Law, more like it. But yeah.
So they'll like experience all the
I don't
fear and
know. I
everything
have
before
Blade
we get
Runner
there.
on the mind because they're doing the sequel with that, and I'm trying to figure out how they're gonna put Elon Musk in the sequel of Blade Runner 2. So I think I'm just thinking replicant minded as opposed to more realistically. But yeah, I hope that whoever the sacrificial humans are that go first.
There's a list of them, man.
Yeah.
People are signing up. They're like, they want to go.
I kind of want.
They want their name on that plaque,
yeah,
don't they?
Yeah,
I kind of think
Here
this.
lies.
I kind of think it'd be okay to just let the stupid people go first, and then save our real scientists. I don't know.
But okay,
But you need like a Matthew McConaughey up there.
do you want a planet full of stupid people though?
Well, we already have that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to sacrifice our best scientists on something that's going to explode. Like, I'd rather send some, expendable scientists. I'm not sure who that list would
The
be.
solid B students is what you're saying. I
Yeah,
see.
like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Send them, and then send our brightest and best. I don't know. It's hard to determine this because I just don't think the first like voyage is going to be successful. So I don't want to see all these great people die. But I guess you kind of have to do that in order for progress to happen. I don't know.
What do you think, Jeff?
I assume a successful colony will happen at the earliest one day after I die. Because that's just how it goes.
Oh. We'll put your brain in a jar like Futurama and you can go.
I would be fine with that.
There you go.
Don't let Elon know that's the timetable.
People are going to be watching you like a hawk, Jeff.
Yeah, but that means that they'll want me to live longer? No.
What about you,
I
Kelsey?
clearly didn't think this through.
Nothing.
Kelsey's got nothing.
I don't
She's
have
like,
an opinion.
I don't care.
Interested to see, but no, I can't handicap this one.
I say send McConaughey. Just send McConaughey.
I think we're agreed on McConaughey.
Yeah.
it's not Michael Cera. It's McConaughey.
No, it's
has
McConaughey and like a robot,
Okay,
a
y'all
sexy
didn't see
robot.
Lone Star. That was a really good movie, and he was amazing.
Which
Yeah.
one? What
Sorry.
movie?
Lone Star?
Oh, I haven't
Totally
seen
off topic.
It's so
Never
sad
mind.
that Michael Cera. I mean, I would have put Eisenberg in there, but whatever.
It. Well, isn't Michael Cera, isn't he like part of Funny or Die? He's kind of like, he's a part
Everyone
of that,
is.
right?
Everyone
Yeah.
is.
He's been
a
Anyone
lot-
who's been on Drunk
He's
History.
probably a part of the joke.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, that starts again tonight, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I just don't want to be on that ship, but I'm hopeful.
Eric, when
Yeah, I
do you
don't think
it's
any of
gonna
us want to
happen?
be on the ship except maybe Sparkman's ashes the next day.
Yeah.
But,
Make an ass of myself.
Eric, when do you think?
Yeah, Eric, what do you think?
so I think he sold me on one thing today. Like in the past, I've written for CNET that I didn't see him even getting there before NASA, just because he always takes 3 times as long as he says he's going to with all of his stuff. But I think he convinced me today that he might manage to get people to Mars before NASA does, maybe in the next 15 years. But I think, everything else, I don't know if much more than that is going to happen in his lifetime. Maybe there's like a small colony or like a small, outpost there by the 2050s. But I just can't imagine much more than that. But it sounds like he's going to, through sheer force of will and through the money he's got amassed and the support he has now, I think he can at least get people there quicker than anybody else. So that's something.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. There's going to be a whole lot more coverage on CNET over the next hours and days. So be sure to check back with us, and also check back next month for a brand new show that might be a little different. We'll see. That's the CraveCast for now and for eternity. We will see you next time. For Stephen Beecham, Jeff Sparkman, Bonnie Burton, and Kelsey Adams, thank you very much, guys. This was a fun one, and we'll see you all next time.